Hi guys! Today we have a Kuroko na basket speed paint. So I'm drawing Midorima in a sort of Mafia AU universe, but he's holding a basketball because his lucky item for the day is a basketball, okay? So yeah. So I'm starting off with coloring the skin, and yes, I'm trying to do longer voiceovers because my friends suggested I do voiceovers so I could explain how to do my art. So this skin is basically I just lay out the flesh tones and then I add a couple of browns for the darker areas and the cast shadow with the hand. And then I'm coloring the hair with a Le Plume marker because I don't have a Copic marker in green that's saturated enough. So yeah. The lip plumes are still nice, and I'm using a Copic for the darker, desaturated areas. And then I briefly color in the eyes, but I don't do the shadows yet because the ink is still wet and it'll bleed and I can get a sharp edge. For the skin, I also used a really light yellow color so that the highlights can pop. It makes the color look better. So yeah, and then I did the bandages. And then afterwards, I color in the shirt. Basically a couple of gray tones, but I add a couple of brown to make the color pop. And then there's the darker shadows. Yeah, same process for the cuffs. And then when coloring the coat in was really difficult because of the folds, but I'm starting out with the light green. It looks a bit weird, but there's actually a bit of green in the highlight, and I wanted to make it as a base so that the coat doesn't look flat gray. So yeah, adding a light desaturated green helps. I use G82 and G85. And then for the grays, I use a bunch of neutral grays. So yeah. So I try to imagine the folds, and then the lighter ones have a lighter green to them, and then the darker areas of the fold where it connects, it's less green and more gray. So yeah, coloring in is really difficult. Most of the video is actually me coloring the suit because it took that long and my gray marker started dying out, but yeah, I think the end result was worth it. And I'm doing a cast shadow of the basketball. Now, I think I really struggle with cast shadows because you have to imagine how the light hits the object and how it forms a shadow, so it can get a bit confusing, but yeah, I tried. I think it actually turned out pretty well. So yeah, I'm doing the other side and basically imagining where the folds pop out because that's where the area is the lightest. And then I try to blend the green in with the light gray so that it becomes less green and more gray, it becomes more desaturated. And then I start blocking in the folds lightly. And then I start to darken the darker parts of the fold, basically where the buttons meet the fabric, and then parts where the fold kind of protrudes the most. So I start defining the edges and then I blend so that it doesn't look too blocky and jagged. Yeah. So yeah, I think coloring fabric is kind of difficult because it's dark, but there's still parts where the shadow gradates. Like, it's not just a solid mass of dark gray or black. So you really have to layer it a lot so that it doesn't end up looking flat. So I brush up to the edge and then I come back and then I work the details again, and then I start doing the buttons. I really wanted to make the buttons look shiny in contrast to the fabric so that it doesn't get lost in the image. So I first outline with a darker marker and then I kind of gradate the shadow out so that the shine looks natural. And then I just do the sleeve, basically the same process. So I define the darker parts and then I blend out to the lighter parts with the light gray. So this is where having a nice spectrum of grays really come in handy so that you can do more shading. And you know, if you run out of a color, like I ran out of neutral gray 5 and 3, so I had to use some cool grays, especially there on the sleeve, but it helped. And then for the tie, I'm doing a green, but I'm making it more desaturated so that it doesn't detract from Midorima's hair and eyes. Yeah, and then I go back and I kind of smoothen out the coat a bit, but it's actually okay, it looks nice. And then I do the sling for the rifle, and then I come back for the clothes again, and then I forgot to color the hand, so yeah, I block in the shadows because you know it holds the ball, so there's no shadow there. And then for the glasses, it's the same process of the buttons. So yeah, darker parts and then slowly gradate for shine. And then I tighten up some more details and add shadow and detail the eyes. And then doing the hat is kind of the same as the suit because they have a similar fabric. Although I'm using a cool gray instead of a neutral gray because I ran out of neutral grays. So yeah, I wanted the hat to be a little less reflective though than the suit because it's not really the main focus. So yeah, so it's the same, like I block in major shadows and then I blend out and with lighter gray, and yeah, I think it looked pretty well. And then the kind of lining is a darker gray just to add a bit of detail to the hat. And then for the basketball, I started out with a yellow because I wanted there to be a prominent yellow highlight. And then I block in oranges and then I try to blend the two colors so that it looks natural because the yellow highlight can look a bit forced. And then I add brown to shade because I find that adding brown adds more depth than a darker orange. And then I detail the lines. And then I work on the sniper rifle at the back. Although you can't really see most of the rifle because it's behind him, but yeah, it still counts. And then I put tracing paper over him and then I trace out his figure and then I cut it so that the figure doesn't get messy because I'm going to do some ink splatters in the background. So first I color in some light warm gray just to add a bit of tone, and then I'll add a darker gray around the bottom so that it gradates and it looks pretty nice, like it fades. And then I put the tracing paper back on and then I start splattering some ink. So I'm using just a Japanese calligraphy brush and some ink. And then I'll start doing the crosshairs because in the Mafia AU I think that he would be the sniper because he has the best aiming ability. And then I'll just outline it with a Chinese calligraphy brush because I want the outline to look really thick. And then I'll start blocking in the parts of the crosshair but with a thinner brush to leave some room for error. And then I'll slowly thicken it up with various multi-liners until it looks the way I want it. So yeah, that's my Midorima speed paint and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I do weekly uploads. And if you have any suggestions, just comment down below. Thanks for watching!